Hey guys, it's Ashley, and this is Downright Bookish, and today I'm going to be sharing the books that I read in February. So, yeah, last month was a pretty difficult month for me emotionally. I was really stressed out with work and a lot of other things, and my anxiety was just through the roof. Hence why there weren't a ton of videos posted in February. But I did get to read 3 books last month. Most of them I really enjoyed, so I think it was a pretty good month. And the one that I really didn't enjoy was kind of more because of the expectation that I was going to really like it and didn't really like it as much as I thought I would. But it was still a very enjoyable book. But without further ado, let's just get into the books I read in February. So also all of these books were books on my TBR for over a year. So they hit some of the goals that I have been working on for this quarter. The first one was Cersei by Madeline Miller. This was also a book on my list of books that I wanted to read in the first quarter, so I knocked this one out right away. I had their wonderful recommendation from Connor O'Brien, I'll put his comment on the screen, that said I should listen to this book instead of reading it because he really enjoyed the audiobook. And I took him up on that recommendation. I purchased the book on Audible and started listening to it on my commute. It was probably the best decision I made last month. The audiobook is stunning. I can't remember who narrates it. I'll put her name on the screen. She does a fabulous job of narrating this book, and you really get a sense for Cersei's character throughout the story. This is my first Madeline Miller book. I was really pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed it, considering how little actually happens in the story. And that's not intended to be like a shady thing, like I'm not trying to be mean, but Cersei's story is stretched over a very long period of time because she's exiled on this island called Aiaya, and things happen, but there's a lot of like gaps in the story where not a lot of like action is occurring. This is definitely much more of a character driven story, which I'm totally here for. I really liked it because I really enjoyed Cersei's character. I like how we get a lot of context towards the beginning of the story, so we're not just like kind of dumped into her being exiled on Aiaya. It goes into her childhood, her relationship with her mother and her father, the sun god, and how she kind of came to be exiled. And then it covers a lot of her going into witchcraft, exploring that side of herself, and then a big chunk of it is her relationship with Odysseus. So I said this in my video where I kind of like my TBR for the books that I want to read that have been on my TBR, that I don't know much about Greek mythology, but I feel like that wasn't really necessary for this book. I think Madeline Miller does a really great job of painting all the characters, describing them. If you have like a basic understanding, a very, very basic understanding, it really got me interested in picking up more books around it in this time. So I am going to be reading The Silence of Girls, I believe it's called, soon, which talks about, it's like a fictionalization of Troy. And I also want to read The Odyssey. Like, book has inspired me to read The Odyssey. I attempted to read it in school, never really actually finished it because I didn't finish any books when I was in high school. But yeah, this book inspired me to check out a lot of that. And I think she even mentions Achilles in this book, so I want to read her other book that follows Achilles. And yeah, I was just really, really happy with this book. Like, the writing is very beautiful, the story is very interesting, and while, like I said, not a lot happens like in terms of like action, you still feel really hooked in the book. And I think part of that is also because the narrator is so captivating. Like, it was just the best choice to listen to this on audio. Yeah, I'm really happy that I enjoyed this book, because now I'm going to give this one away and buy the actual cover, because the actual cover has like very nice like copper kind of metallic tones to it, and this is just the Book of the Month edition, which is a little cheaper of an edition. So yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to read her other book. And yeah, if you are intimidated by not knowing a lot about mythology, I really, like, I don't think that should stop you from reading this book, because I honestly am not, I don't know anything, and I still really enjoyed this book and understood a lot that was going on. So, yeah. Really, this was probably the best read of the month. Next, I was reading this book throughout like the end of January and finished it early February, and that is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know why this book doesn't have the actual name of the book on the cover. It just says Mistborn, but that's the name of the series and not the name of the first book. The first book is The Final Empire, but whatever. Okay, so like to begin, I liked the book. I thought it was good, but I did not think it was as good as everyone talks about. Like, Brandon Sanderson is a very popular book, especially in the sci-fi community. Everyone really enjoys his work and is really super fans of his stuff, and I just did not get that vibe when I was reading it. I thought it was a good book. I mean, I would rate it like a 3.5, so it's better than like average, but not like one of my must reads. But I think my main issue is this book is it's super long, and you're expecting it to encompass half of this story, which is contained in this full story. So I'm curious to know what actually happens in the rest of the series, because this is like a full contained story. If you haven't read it, I don't want to give too much away, but like this is like, it could be a standalone if you wanted it to be a standalone. So I'm interested to know what happens in the next 2 books in the series. The magic in this world is about people consuming metals, so different metals give people different powers, and only Mistborns are able to consume and utilize the powers, all the metals, and then there are Mistlings that can only use one metal. So we follow mainly 2 characters in this book, though there are a host of other characters. We follow a young girl named Vin, who is a Mistborn, and she's been part of these like bandit groups that are stealing from the elite and all that. Also Kessler or Kel, who is part of one of these bandit groups and is a Mistborn, and Scott as well. And basically they group together with a couple of other characters who are plotting to overthrow the Emperor. So that's kind of like the main premise. It's a lot more detailed than that. There are a lot more like factions, and I really enjoyed like the different like political stages. There's like a ministry, there's like a whole bunch of different like politics to this book that I really enjoyed. I really didn't enjoy Vin's character very much. There's a part where Vin gets into this romance with a noble or elite, and to me that felt very rushed, and I was very confused what their relationship was about. And it was just, Vin is supposed to be this like brave, like, you know, independent woman who can take on her own challenges and can save herself in situations, and she's supposed to be that typical hard type of girl. And she reminded me a lot of the main female character from A Darker Shade of Magic. They're both scrappy young girls who are kind of fighting to survive in a city where there's a ton of like class and economic imbalance, basically. So yeah, I just didn't really enjoy her character. I was much more interested in Kessler's character. He was very much more like complex and dynamic. It was very unclear of his motives throughout the story, which I enjoyed. And I think the ending, while I was disappointed by the ending, because without spoiling anything, I was just disappointed in the ending because that's not the outcome I wanted. I still thought it was done really well, and I still thought his character was really well done, so I don't have any issues with that. Another issue that I had with this book is the writing was not anywhere like revolutionary, I guess, in my sense. Brandon Sanderson uses a very limited vocabulary in a lot of his action scenes, so you see the same words repeated over and over and over again. His sentences also are very like simple. It's like, Kessler did this, Kessler did that, Kessler did this, and it just wasn't like, I mean, it probably wouldn't have bothered me if I had not been like set up to be like, oh, Brandon Sanderson is this really great writer, his stories are really amazing. And I think the simplicity of the language and the sentence structure in this story kind of just like confused me as to why people were so impressed by him as a writer. I mean, the story was very interesting. He definitely has a way with world building, but writing wise, I don't think his work is like anything that stands out to me. So I'm still going to continue on with the series. I'm very curious to know how the other two books go because, like I said, this feels like a very contained story. So yeah, that to say, I'm going to try to read the rest of the books this year so I can just knock them out. And hopefully I begin to see where the hype is coming from. But right now, I'm just not feeling it. And finally, I'll go through this book quickly because it is very short. I read Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Feminist Manifesto and 15 Suggestions. And I wanted to get this one out because it was a quick read and it had been on my TBR for a year. So it kind of really just hit that goal. But I did enjoy this. Did it need to be published? Maybe not. I could see her writing this in a blog post or something. And I found these suggestions or ideas to be not particularly revolutionary, but a very good solid foundation for someone that doesn't know a lot about feminism or wants to know more and is really kind of struggling with where they stand on that. So I enjoyed it. I would think you will find some nuggets that really stick with you and kind of make you think about your own ideas and values. So I definitely think it's worth the read, but maybe not worth purchasing. But yeah, I enjoyed it. So those are the 3 books that I read in February. Let me know in the comments what books you read, or if you've read any of the books I mentioned here and want to discuss them with me. Let me know. I'm always open to talking more in depth about these books because I try to keep my videos as spoiler-free as possible, so if there are any juicy bits from these books you want to talk about, just let me know in the comments. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon with another one. Thanks, bye!